Hey, budding lawyers, welcome to the podcast. Today we have Miss Bhavna Patnani with us. Hi, Bhavna.
Hi Prasanna, how are you?
Great, great. So, Bhavna is a licensed lawyer and company secretary from India with 4 years of experience. Her expertise includes matters of company law, intellectual property law, and food safety and standard regulations. As a Canadian PR and enthusiast about learning different laws, she is currently pursuing NCA accreditation to establish a hold in the Canadian legal market. So, in this episode, we'll talk mostly on this topic. So, Bhavna, starting from this, can you tell something to our listeners about your plans to go to Canada? Like, why did you choose to go there? Are there better opportunities in the Canadian legal market, or is there something else, some other reason you have?
Uh, so yes, of course, the Western world has better opportunities for any profession that you pick. And as for Canada, if we talk about that, yes, the profession is more regulated as compared to the legal profession in India. Of course, the rules and regulations vary from each state to state. It's called a province there. So each province has its own law society, just like we have bar councils here. And every province has different set of regulations that we need to follow to become licensed there.
Okay. So can you elaborate more on that? What is a province and how is it different from India? Like, how is the legal system there different?
Right. Okay. So, like we have different states in India, the states in Canada are called provinces. Each province has a law society, which is equivalent to a bar council of any state in India. But
Hmm.
like in India, if we have AIB, All India Bar exam that we write and become licensed to practice across India, it's
Right.
not the case similar to in Canada. There, each law society has its own set of exams that you write, which is called the barrister and solicitor's exam. And only then you are licensed to practice in that particular province. So if you intend to practice in two different provinces in Canada, you have to write barrister and solicitor exams for two different law societies, and then you are licensed to practice. Of course, you have an option to transfer your membership from one law society to another, but there are some procedural aspects that need to be covered.
Okay. So when the membership is transferred, does that lawyer needs to take the exam again for that province, or it can be skipped?
I am not sure of this aspect because I haven't reached that stage in my of procedure of attaining the license. So I would not be the right person to advise on this bit.
Okay, okay, no issues. I understand because even you are applying for the first time and you are yet to attain the
Absolutely.
membership. Uh, and
Right.
yeah. So you're also planning to take the citizenship there? I mean, it's quite personal, not relevant to the podcast, but still.
So I hold a permanent residency visa for Canada, and yes, I intend to settle in Canada only after completing my accreditation process that I am doing right now.
Okay, okay. So, what's the procedure for Indian lawyers to work as a lawyer in Canada? Can you explain the procedure like step by step?
Sure, I'll do that. So to start off with, there's a regulatory body called the National Committee on Accreditation, which is the NCA. This is a federal body which does the assessment for international lawyers. To get your accreditation, you do not necessarily have to be Canadian. You could be an international student, you could be a newcomer to Canada, or you could be of any citizenship, any nationality, and you could write those exams. And the procedure starts off at the very basic, wherein you send your transcripts, legal transcripts, and your pre law transcripts to NCA for assessment. The assessment is basically about your eligibility for being equivalent to a Canadian law graduate.
Okay.
So, the first step itself is obtaining your legal transcripts, and the procedure starts off with creating an account on the NCA website. It's called your My Account tab. You'll see there. You create an account there. You upload all the documents required. So the documents would include your mark sheets, your transcripts, your resume, and any other letter or document that you intend to provide to NCA for your assessment. Thereafter, you also need to send your hard copies of the documents that you've uploaded to NCA, and the transcripts, specifically the legal transcripts, have to go directly from the issuing institution. Say, for instance, for me, it was Mumbai University, with which my college was affiliated with. So after obtaining the transcripts from college, I had to get it attested from Mumbai University, and thereafter it had to be sent directly from the university to NCA. That is the first step. Thereafter, NCA takes about 4 to 6 weeks. Like, it used to take about 4 to 6 weeks. Now, of course, due to COVID, the timelines have increased. And so it takes about 4 to 6 weeks or max 8 weeks to get your assessment from NCA. There are core 5 exams which are assigned to everybody, which includes Canadian Constitution Law, Canadian Foundation, Canadian Administrative Law, Criminal Law, and Professional Responsibility. These 5 core exams are assigned irrespective of the region that you are licensed to practice in. And of course, there are elective subjects which are assigned basis your marks and your experience. Personally, I was assigned 7 subjects, the 5 and 2 elective subjects, which included tort and property law. And so the assessment is valid for 5 years from the date of issue of your report. And considering COVID, NCA has been generous, and now they conduct exams every month starting from January 2021. So that's a good opportunity for anybody who's looking to get licensed in Canada, that get their assessments fast and start writing exams every month instead of what it used to be held in every quarter. And now, since everything has been revamped, keeping in mind the COVID restrictions, the exams are conducted online. It is an open book exam for 4 hours. And of course, there are going to be technical glitches. No system is foolproof. But the good thing is, when you get logged off the system while writing your exam, the timer doesn't continue. The timer is stopped, and you can always log in, and the timer restarts from where it stopped. So that's a good part with NCA.
That's really good, because considering countries like India, where the internet connectivity is a big problem at many places right now, even we are facing so many issues recording the podcast.
Absolutely.
So one can understand.
Right. Yes, we had, of course, a lot of difficulties with the internet connectivity, but thankfully we're there now. So
yeah, recording finally. Yeah. So can you tell our listeners more about what transcripts include?
Okay. So the documents what we send to NCA is about all your degrees that you have obtained. So for me, it was a bachelor's in commerce, a master's in commerce, LLB, and CS. So I had to send transcripts, which is like a statement issued by the college or the university directly, with your subjects taken in the course and the marks that you've obtained out of whatever marks it was. So it was usually the marks obtained out of 100 for people from Mumbai University. And so it's a statement which gives a summary of your entire course done over the period of 3 years in a 1.5 pager. And it is, of course, stamped and signed by the college authority, stating that these are the correct and true marks of the candidate.
Okay.
So all of this was to be sent to Canada, to NCA office specifically, and you also upload them on the portal, like I mentioned earlier.
These transcripts don't include any other certificate courses or any postgraduate courses marks like that. Even if you have done from that university, it will only include bachelor's, master's, only the statement of marks of that particular degree, if I'm not wrong.
No. So NCA categorizes 2 parts. Your education is categorized in 2 parts. One is your legal education, which is your LLB or BA LLB or BB LLB, whatever you do. And the others is pre-law. Pre-law education would include anything and everything that you have done, including your certifications, PG, bachelor's in other streams, anything else.
Okay,
Even
okay.
if it is done after obtaining your legal degree, it will still be regarded as pre-law education.
So it's a summary of everything, including the main degrees like bachelor's, master's, plus whatever courses you do apart from that. So
That's right.
even
Yes.
if you do a course, say from other university or some online course, will that be counted?
You can send everything which you think has a bearing on the assessment, and of course the NCA officers will take their discretion and see if it's relevant or not and assign you the subjects. The assessment is specifically case to case basis, and so for assuming for instance like there is a candidate who has say 15 years of work experience in a particular field of law, for instance say property law, and somewhere on the other hand I am a new law graduate having no experience and did not even score well in the exam conducted for LLB. Of course, I will be assigned an elective subject of property law, whereas on the other hand, the lawyer may not be assigned. That's the discretion of the NCA officer.
Okay, okay.
Of course, there is clarity always in the policies of NCA for a waiver to your elective subject, which is passing percent plus 5% of your marks. So that is the waiver marks requirement. But if you do not score well and you have enough work experience, you can always write a letter explaining your details and probably they will consider. The other thing that I missed out in the set of documents also include a good standing certificate if you're enrolled with the Bar Council. So any state Bar Council that you are enrolled with will issue you a good standing certificate. This good standing certificate is nothing but merely a statement saying that you were enrolled from a particular date in the rolls of the Bar Council and you have no criminal records or any other specifically mentioned disadvantage to your name, I would say that way.
Yeah, so basically, I think a good conduct thing, right? A certificate regarding that.
Similar to this, yes. That is the good standing certificate. Basically, it also checks about your criminal records. Like if you are a lawyer and you have a criminal record, that's something not very appreciated. So yes, that is why they need a good standing certificate.
Okay, yeah. And I guess you didn't mention letters of recommendation. So is it necessary or not required in this process?
For NCA accreditation process, it's not required, but when you go on in the licensing procedure and you are applying for your articleship or you're enrolling with the bar, I mean the law societies of Canada, anywhere, any province, it's better if you put in your letter of recommendations as well, but it's not mandatory. Like for instance, if somebody is absolutely fresh and raw from Indian legal system and wants to relocate and start a career in Canada, and they do not have any work experience or letter of recommendation, it is okay to go ahead, start afresh, and build yourself in Canada.
Okay, nice. Because I think getting letters of recommendation, it's quite a tedious job running after the college
Absolutely.
authorities, your lecturers, and getting the signatures and drafting all that stuff. Okay, this
Right. I understand.
we so people who are listening who are planning to apply for NCA, this burden is reduced, so you can plan for that. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, is there any difference between NCA and the Bar Council of India much? Like, to explain, I think I have understood roughly what the difference is, but to make our listeners understand it more simpler terms, can you just jot down the differences?
So, bar councils in India would be equivalent to law societies in Canada. To be eligible to apply to law societies, this is an intermediate authority to give you the qualification certificate rather. which will enable you to go apply to law society. So, of course, bar councils and NCA are not at the same level.
Yeah, so basically, Bar Council is a central authority in India, but in Canada, there is no such central authority. There are only,
Correct. There is no like that, no authority like that.
yeah,
Right.
so they have these bodies, but only in that particular province. There is one body in each province.
That's correct. Every province has a law society for itself, which regulates the admission and licensing for the candidate.
Okay, so if one plans to do his master's from any university in Canada, like LLM in whatever subject he wants
Right.
to master, is it required for him to go through NCA again? Like after LLM, is it required for him to go through the NCA process?
No, it is not required for a candidate to finish LLM and do the NCA exams. But what happens is when you apply for a master's, there are certain courses which are approved by the NCA. So whenever you're applying for a master's, you send an email to NCA writing that I am wishing to apply for this course and I intend to become a lawyer in Canada. Would these uh, exams covered during the LLM course get me an exemption from the NCA exams? And if they approve of the program, then you do not have to write the NCA exams again. A lot of people do a combination of NCA exams and the LLM, but of course that's an option to the candidate available, that whether you go full-time LLM or you do a combination or you just write the NCA exam.
But
Getting an approval from,
why would people do that? Because if it's not necessary, if you do LLM, then why would people do that?
because everybody would want a master's degree from a foreign country, right?
Yeah. So if
That's
you do
the
the
only catch here.
if you do the masters, it is not required to go through the NCA process, right?
Only if your master's course is approved by the NCA for that particular exams. Like if they give you a waiver, then you do not have to write those exams. Suppose, for instance, if you're doing a master's in common law, but common law does not cover all the courses that are prescribed by the NCA, then you might have to go ahead and write the NCA exams to be eligible there.
So it depends on the specialization you choose.
Correct. And any course that you take has to be approved by the NCA, because they at the end are going to give you a waiver and the certificate of qualification stating that you are equivalent to a Canadian law graduate now.
Okay.
So if at all they go back and say that no, your course was not approved, you will have to write the NCA exams, then you will have to write that particular set of exams that is still pending for you, and thereafter you get your qualification certificate, and then you can enroll with the law society.
Okay. So what are you planning to do? Like, are you planning for a LLM there, or you are just planning for NCA?
No, so I am only writing the NCA exams, and I will, go back to Canada sometime next year and start looking out for articling opportunities, which is also a part of the licensing procedure. So after everybody's done with their NCA, they have to do articling for a period of 8 to 12 months, depending on which law society they are associated with. So the law society decides the tenure of your articleship, and you also have an option to seek an abridgment or a waiver from the law society for your articling period. So since I do not have extensive legal work experience, like core litigation, I would say, I would not be eligible for an exemption. But of course, I will ask for an abridgment stating my previous experiences. So hopefully I should get that. And my articling period would be reduced thereafter. And once I am done with my articling, then I would be finally called to the bar in Canada, and I would be licensed in one particular province for
and
my
then
practice.
You will be Canadian lawyer.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So what involves in the articleship? Like, is it similar to what these CAs and CS students go through, or is it something different there?
So in the articling period, you get to learn about different areas of law, just like we have legal internships here in India. of course, which is not mandatory, but preferred by a lot of students to get the hands-on experience and exposure. Likewise, in Canada, it is mandatory to do it there, but you get hands-on experience on different aspects of law, and you can always end up choosing your particular field of interest.
Okay. Okay. So they help you all to for the placement of articleships, or you have to find it yourself?
If you are doing a master's from any university, then of course you have an option of on-campus recruitment. But if you are an international
Hmm.
lawyer doing your NCA exams, then it is not supported by any particular organization. It's up to the individual's
Hmm.
choice to find out more about the articling positions available. But at the same time, you have the networking groups for international lawyers, which come in handy at this hour. So there are two main community groups, I would say. One is Global Lawyers of Canada, and the second is the NCA network. And of course, there are bar associations of each province. So for Ontario, there is Ontario Bar Association. You can always be a member of these groups and interact and communicate with the other international lawyers who are in the same field and experiencing the same, uh, the same situation as you. Like as of now, currently, most of us are awaiting our results from the August session. So a couple of days back, I just reached out to my network on LinkedIn and Facebook stating that, it is a very tense situation right now because NCA has been releasing results for each subject every day. So we actually don't know when our result is going to be out. And we are all in that panic mode. Some of us are even waiting for the result as our last exam. So it is like, a boiling point for all of us.
Okay. So it
So
is
that was one,
it is like
yeah,
people are checking the live COVID-19 cases every day. Y'all are checking your results every day if it's out or not, and
absolutely, yes.
what's the result?
And considering the time zone differences that, people in India are facing, so I have been waking up to messages on my WhatsApp group saying that, oh, this result is out at, say, 4 o'clock in the morning. And I've had
Mhm.
sleepless nights because of that. So probably, hopefully, I'm praying on Monday, the results that I am awaiting should be out and, we get done with it.
Okay, all the best for that.
Thank you so much.
Which books would you recommend for people who are planning to take up this NCA exam?
So the NCA syllabus gives the prescribed reading material in the syllabus that is uploaded on the NCA portal. But of course, the books are heavy and vast, so not everybody is capable of doing a full reading. So we students generally opt for a concise version, which is the notes from renowned tutors
Hmm.
and authors available. So I would suggest go out, reach out to tutors, ask for sample notes, see for yourself if you're able to understand those, and then you can pick and choose. Also, the tutors for NCA exams offer demo lectures, which is like an introductory class. So candidates must attend those to get an overview. That is very helpful. And of course, then you assess the tutor and your compatibility also, whether you can understand what they are teaching. And if you are the kind of person who needs tutoring, opt for it. Of course, it involves a lot of cost, but it helps you get through in the very first go. But if you are of someone who prefers self-study, then opt for notes available from these tutors and finish it off.
Okay, and even the notes are they charge for the notes. It's not like
Yes.
freely available on the website.
No, it's not freely available, but there are some free resources from universities which offer law programs like masters. So those materials are available. The bare acts are available on the internet, but the concise updated notes for the entire syllabus is not available freely. You have to either opt from the authors of those notes on your own, or probably ask from the tutors. That's an option.
Okay. So can people share it like they usually do in India, Netflix subscription and Amazon Prime subscription?
No, it is legally not allowed. because it involves the copyright to the notes for the authors and the tutors. So it is not recommended or allowed to share the notes.
Okay, so okay, I got it. You're pressing on recommended and allowed,
Yes.
but things happen. Yeah.
Things happen in a lot of places,
Okay.
right? But if at all,
Yeah,
say,
right.
something goes wrong, God forbid, your license could be in jeopardy. So I would not recommend or share myself. Like on a personal level, I would not walk
Hmm.
that road at all.
So, listeners, please don't send any mails or for getting notes from her. I would not entertain those mails.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's not very expensive to go out and purchase notes directly because it involves a lot of time and effort for the author to update the notes every time the syllabus changes. So let's just give them some respect that
Mhm.
they deserve and purchase directly from the authors.
Sure, sure, sure. As such, I'm not planning for, so it's fine with me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so what do you think? What people prefer more, doing an LLM from Canada or doing this NCA exam?
So this choice actually depends on a number of factors. The two important ones being the time involved and the cost involved. So if we compare the cost, first, the cost for a normal LLM from any university in Canada would be around $30,000 for a domestic student. So that includes a PR or a citizen. But if you are going as an international student, it ranges from about $50,000 to about $75,000 approximately, depending on the university and the course that you're doing. On the other hand, the NCA assessment costs only $300 or $350 for the assessment and $300 for every exam. So assuming you are assigned 7 exams like I was assigned, so it's 7 into 300, this is 2,100 plus a $350 for assessment, 1,050, and that's the difference. Firstly, for the cost, like $30,000 and $1,050 for your accreditation, and secondly was the time involved. For an LLM, it would, if you're doing a full-time LLM, it would be about 2 years of in classroom coaching or online coaching right now, and the LLM and the NCA exams depends on your time and availability. The exams are conducted every month in 2021. So if you are available to study full time and you want to cover your exams as soon as you want, as soon as you can. So if you intend to cover your assigned subject within a span of 5 months, you could do that. So for me personally, it was NCA, firstly because of the cost and secondly because of the time involved. And I would recommend anybody and everybody, whoever is looking for a change in the industry, start off with NCA, get yourself into the market, enroll yourself with a bar, and if required, you can always go back and do your masters. Nobody's stopping you from doing a masters later on. But it's at least good to
Yeah.
be in the market initially to get an idea whether it's worth the money that you're investing.
Yeah, and I think articleship is there compulsory in NCA and not in LLM, right?
Even with LLM, you will have to do your articling and your barrister solicitor exams.
Okay.
So the cost that I covered with LLM, the $30,000, which is the domestic fee, as compared to the NCA fee, it's the equivalence. Thereafter, you go ahead and do your articling and your barrister solicitor exams, which is with the Law Society, and that is for both the options that you choose.
Mm-hmm.
It's not exempted for LLM. You have to end up doing both.
Okay, Bhavna. So we have talked enough about the Canadian legal system and how to get into that. Any final tips you want to give our audience?
Yes, I would like to put in a word for your audience to not stick to the straight line of the entire process of accreditation, but to go out and network with the other lawyers who are whether established or establishing themselves in the Canadian legal market. And the second thing would be to do the certifications which are available, which add value to your expertise. So if you are interested in legal research or say drafting or any particular field like AML compliances, there are a host of certifications available, one of which I have personally done is LexCan Legal Research Program from LexisNexis Canada. So I would suggest your audience to go out and do certifications which can add value to their already held expertise. The popular certifications include the legal research certification offered by LexisNexis Canada. There are certifications available from Westlaw. These are popular search engines, just like we have Manupatra or SEC in India. So it always adds value if you are looking out for a role in legal research or drafting or probably initial legal assistant roles. I have personally done legal research certification from LexisNexis Canada, and it's a free certification. So feel free to go out, check their website, and enroll for these exams.
So all these courses are free, or there are different charges for different courses and some courses are free or something?
Yes, it varies from different organizations that you're doing it from. So Westlaw does not have a free certification, whereas LexisNexis Legal Research Certification is a free program. So you could either invest and do a certification or do what is available for free, but both add equal value for your profile.
Okay, Bhavna, thanks a lot for sharing all this information with us, with our listeners, and taking time from your tight schedule, like preparing for exams and working and all. So thanks a lot for that.
Not a problem at all. Your audience can reach out to me on any of the social media platforms. I'm very active on LinkedIn and Instagram specifically. So feel free to reach out to me for any kind of advice that you're looking for. And I would be happy to help.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you like this episode, then you must also check out our other episodes available here and follow us here so that you don't miss a new episode. Thank you.
Thank you.